mix 5 on the, you know what I'm saying, on your noon time, the hot lunch mix, you know what I'm saying? It was just like going down, house. I had a friend that moved to Chicago in like 1980, 79, 80, from the Bronx. His family was from, you know, they came out of the whole Fort Apache thing and all that stuff, you know, when the Bronx was burning up and the gangs was going down. He used to always brag about, you know, gangs that settled their differences with dances and stuff. And I was just like, man, I'm from Chicago. It's gangster disciples and such where I'm from, you know. I see gangs like shootings and stabbings and you talking about dancing. But, you know, there was this program around that time called That's Incredible. I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember that. I'm showing my age right now. Right? So on That's Incredible, Fran Tarkenton and all them people was talking about, you know, today on That's Incredible, you will see in New York, they are settling their differences with gangs by dancing. And I was like, wow, this is what he's talking about. So I kind of watched hip hop like form in front of me through him telling me about it, him showing me like photo albums of like trains and things like that. And I was just like instantly captivated. And I was trying to get away from all these thugs around my house, man. I was trying to do something else. So that dude was my escape for sure.
Was it as simple, like, how did you become, like,
well, as an artist,
you created the second hip-hop comic.
Well, as an artist, your work can transcend a lot of things. Genders, you know, geographically, as an artist, you want to get to New York, you want to get to Europe, you want to get to Asia, you know. So at the time, I was trying to get to New York, being in Chicago. Like I said, the comic book companies weren't there. So I went to hang out with a buddy of mine in Brooklyn. He took me to a West Indian Arts Festival and the guys at the turntables, and it blew my mind. I was like, that's hot, I want to be a part of that. And showed up, you know, graffiti, because I have a different style. You know, I'm truly old school. I'm digging Hanna-Barbera and Jack Kirby and stuff like that.
As you can see in that.
Yeah.
This is actually a comic that you ended up doing.
Yeah, Dennis Cowan, we co-illustrated that for Batman. And Dennis, as you know, he's been drawing Batman since he was like 16. One of the few brothers has had the opportunity. But it's not the best with deadlines. So I said, dude, you know, you're drawing Batman, people break their arm to do it, and you're a couple months late on the deadline. So I stepped in and sketched out a bunch of pages for him, but I brought my influence to it. This is, hey, we need a drug scene, and so I started drawing these, you know, hip hop guys and the hair and the, you know, the hats and all of that, and it worked its way in Batman, you know. So today it's kind of nothing new, but at the time when I did it, I got a lot of resistance. People were like, well, rap music's not going to be around very long. It's a dying, it's a fad, and that's what 30-some years ago. Some of the top music there is now is hip hop. And it's not just black, it's, you know, it's crossover.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt you when you were talking about going to New York and seeing this.
Yeah, so it inspired me, influenced me, like things should, as artists, inspire you, whether it's, you know, going to a party or going to a museum, whatever. You got to get your influences from the things you see, and that's what I saw. It was hot, it was music, it had fashion, you know, women looked good, and, you know, it was just something I wanted to illustrate.
Supernatural.
Yeah.
You are actually a New Yorker originally.
Well, no, not originally. I was born in Indiana, but then I moved to New York when I was in my teenage years.
So you experienced a lot of these things firsthand. I know that we've talked about, you know, the comic shops in New York.
Absolutely. Love Saves the Day and all of these different places. I mean, how comic books kind of influenced me is like my whole character as an MC is based off of comics. Hence the name MC Supernatural, you know, like one of the battles that I won, I mean, in my mind, I always lived inside a comic book. From the time that I opened up a comic, I live a comic book every day of my life. So when I got inducted into a battle called the Battle for World Supremacy. Does that not sound like something out of a comic book? And it was thrown by a DJ from New York called Superman Clark Kent. So, as you know, you read in the comics, you always read how the comic character he comes out, his first debut, his suit isn't right, you know, it's kind of off, he might have, you know, sewed some stuff together. Well, that was me. And I went to this battle and I was an alternate. And I remember sitting on the side and I said, please, somebody show up. And the dude didn't show up, so I got in the battle. And I remember I had on like a beige flight jacket, and I brought a pair of goggles with me, airplane goggles. And they were army green. And I remember sitting in the audience with all the other MCs. And everybody was so vibrato, loud. Yeah, we can do this. Yeah, well, MF this. Yeah, that. And I just pulled the goggles down over my face and I sat very quiet. And everybody, sooner or later, they started looking over like, who is this dude? And why is he so quiet? And I said, you guys will see. And in my mind, at that moment, that was my first appearance. You know, like when you have a comic and that's your first appearance. That was the first appearance of Supernatural. And then when you pair it with the skill that I have, being able to rhyme off the cuff, that's my superpower. You know, so I was totally influenced by comics, and I still am to this day. That's why me and him are like best friends. It was simply based off of a conversation, and we started, you know this one, you read that, oh, I read that, oh, God. And then and that's how my whole thing came into existence, and I still got my superpower to this day.
And Charlie, since Super just touched on that, your alter ego, as it were, is actually taken directly from a cartoon character. Was that the comic influence coming out, or was that just sort of?
It was really a joke, man. My father, I'm the fourth in my family. I'm Charles Stewart, the fourth, right? So that's my great grandfather, my grandfather, my father, and me. And I remember I was like 5, 6 years old running around the house, and my father, his nickname was Pee Wee when he was growing up, because he was like, they named him after the Dolomite movie, P.D. Weestraw, the Devil's Son-in-Law. That was my pops in the streets, right? But he didn't want to name me, Little Pee Wee, right? So he was like looking for a nickname, and the Star Kids commercial came on. You know, the little blue dude, the little blue tunny with the deep voice. He's like, yeah, tell him Charlie sent you. And my pops, I just remember him starting to laugh, like, I'm gonna start calling you Tuna, and it just stuck. But it was a family name at first. It wasn't like the homies, everybody knew it. wasn't like that at all. And he started calling me that in front of them.
So why did you then take it on as your sort of superheroic performance identity?
Well, to be perfectly honest, man, I'm gonna be real with y'all, man. I noticed that women never forget that when I tell them that that's my name, like quicker than the guys do. So I was like, I'm gonna stick with this one right here.
Oh my God.
So let's gonna throw up a couple slides here of Aaron's, both with Geopar and as I guess solo artist and with other collectives. A lot of what you do is going into communities to create work and painting walls, creating murals, doing really immaculate work. I don't know if any of you guys on stage can see that from this angle, but if not, you should check it out afterwards. And comics and visual art is a specifically universal communication. And specifically as it relates to comics, is that sort of a point of entry that you can use when working with people in different communities? I know that it's used a lot in classrooms and things now. And
yeah, I definitely think that visual art has a way of translating across different languages, and it's definitely allowed me to travel into communities and share stories. A lot of what I do is either what I was calling visual translation for a long time, like I would work with community folks, especially around social justice. A lot of my stuff has to do with social justice, community activism, and human rights stuff. And then I also do, like, I paint under freeways, and I do stuff for fun, and then I do city gigs, so, it ranges. But for the most part, I definitely think that there's this way to translate stories. So like with the comics, I work with a lot of more letter people. I'm more of the character person myself too. So, I think we always try and like mash up the two together so that we could have that sort of depiction of like, you could say it very literally, and then you kind of say it poetically through the visual art. So I like that translation.
I once went on a trip to Italy, just randomly, just to show that hip hop is kind of everywhere. There's a little piece of graffiti on a wall that just said, "Hip hop, no stop."
that actually makes a good transition. Let's, James, let's talk about 1985.
Sure.
That feeds nicely out of both the graffiti, the communication, and we're talking about being in different communities and exposure to hip hop. And 1985 is, well, I'll let you describe it.
It was back I mean, we all started doing graffiti around the time I was 15 years old, and I had my first crew, and you know, it was basically, we had our own little version of New York City in this little beach town called in Santa Cruz in California, and I mean, it's kind of what we imagined. So we tried to basically emulate all our heroes, all the subway graffiti writers, all this stuff, and that's what basically the book is about. It's just this kind of how this hip hop scene kind of grew. We had a club, an all ages club, and they had open mic nights and everything. And yeah, so it was that one year, 1985, and it just seemed to die in '86. I mean, it kind of lived on, but in that town especially, it just kind of seemed to disappear. I kept doing graffiti, but yeah, that 1 year for some strange reason was a big hip hop year, and that's what the series chronicles.
And now if you look at Santa Cruz, it seems like Dell is playing there once a week.
Yeah.
It's like, it won. You've done some other work, also, obviously the Matt Dillon thing. This Timberland logo, was that just a proposal, or is that actually for a...
He wanted an action figure, and they wanted to make him kind of like a Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Timbaland. I think this was like about 6 years ago when or maybe a little bit longer, when Timbaland was like, that's all you heard on the radio. So this were all concept art that I had done for him.
And
the new Bismarcky video, he turns into the Hulk.
Biz also a huge nerd. Loves comics, loves toys, loves pretty much anything you talk to him about, he'll start getting enthused about. Yeah. So Kenny, let's turn the conversation over to you for a minute, because you have a project, you have an artist alley table with your associate on Rhyme Travelers, Gustavo. What's the, I don't have that written down, do I?
We're at
I-32.
I-32, Artist Alley. Shout out to Gustavo, somewhere out here. Yeah, we met. We actually met at Wondercon a few years ago, and seeing each other's work and kind of turned into a conversation about like Wu-Tang and Twilight Zone and just like all this sort of overlap. And that eventually became Rhyme Travelers, which is like an intergalactic hip hop band that's on tour in space, traveling from gig to gig, and they always wind up having to, save the universe in the process. And it's all ages, it's science fiction. This is the latest issue. It's sort of like Jack Kirby meets LL Cool J, I Need Love. You always wanted to see those two things together. That's sort of our model. We just kind of come up with a story, and then we just sort of out-reference each other. So you'll look at a panel, and it'll be like Crazy Cat from, some old 1920s comic, mixed with a Rakim lyric. And we just sort of just pile it all in there, and it's dope. It's super fun to work on. Good.
Well, what excited me about Kenny's work is that, as I said in my intro and running you through those things, I saw a lot of hip hop influence creeping into comics, and concurrent comics influence in rap records and hip hop and in dance forms and stuff. But what really wowed me about Kenny's stuff is that Kenny was a comic artist who I discovered through OK Player and a bunch of music websites when he started doing his mashups, like what, 5 years ago now?
Yeah, 6
years ago.
Yeah.
It was the first time that I was like, reading a music site, reading a music magazine, and seeing like, hey, wait a minute, like, I guess comics really are cool. And seeing those things coming up. Again, Marvel has clearly tapped this vein for inspiration years later. My all-time favorite. But that was really the first time that I was seeing this stuff reflected in the music press instead of just a comic press. And it was great because you were a comic creator whose work I discovered from the music instead of, through those through those channels still being separate.
Yeah, I mean, that was super weird. I don't know what to do with that too. But yeah, it's cool. I love it. It was cool to just, you're going on like the rap blogs, and then you look at, this is up there, and that's already really strange, but then people start geeking out like, oh, what's this? I know this album, but what's that character? And just kind of piecing it all together. Yeah.
Okay. Super. James we just saw a piece of the new Bismarcky video he's working on. And I'm going to give you guys all a chance a little later to talk more about your current and upcoming projects. But you mentioned upstairs to me a project that you're working on that might be, or that you just finished, that might be of great interest to this audience.
Yeah.
Specifically a comic-related theme?
Yeah, it's like a dream come true for me. I was sitting at the house, and because I have the ability to freestyle so quick, this guy called me and he's like, hey, dealing with deadlines, as the man said down there before. He's like, yo, we gotta meet a deadline. And I got a chance to write rhymes for Ninja Turtles too. We're there in the elevator, they're beatboxing, they make this like kind of impromptu beat, and they sent me that, and they was like, yo, can you write something to that? And I had to rewrite it about 6 times, but I finally for a minute rhyme, it's like 1 minute. So they want you to fit 4 turtles' personalities into 1 minute and have them all have a part. And it wasn't easy to do that, but I was able to do it, and they kept it. Paramount kept the rhyme, and it's history now. But for me, it was just like, come on, man, you grow up looking at the Turtles, from the inception of the black and white comic to when they turned it into color, and then, they did the really horrible movie, and then, it went on to this movie that's like action-packed over the top, but still has that little tinge of corny to it, which is good, and I was able to do that, so, pretty cool to be able to use your hip-hop abilities to, incorporate something into a film and to characters that you grew up watching. So it was kind of easy to do because you know all the Turtles' personalities from growing up watching that stuff. So it was actually fun to keep rewriting because it made me keep thinking of stuff that, and then me and my brother got into it. And, it was cool. It was really a fun experience to be able to do something like that.
What's the best turtle to write
I like this guy. I would say Donatello because he's like, for me, I kind of associate with him because not only is he like a fighter, he's super intelligent. He uses his intellectual abilities as well as his fighting abilities. So it was kind of cool to write.
He also does machines, as I recall.
Yeah, he makes all of the gadgets. He makes everything. So it was just kind of like fun to write for him.
We need to go up to the main show floor after this panel and see if we can find you one of the Rap and Mike action figures that they made.
Really?
Yeah, it's not good, but it exists.
I will tell you, like I said before, sometimes a little tinge of corny is what makes things cool.
He has
Everything-
microphone
everything
nunchucks.
is
He
not like it has to
has
be
like
the best.
turntables that he wears, like a guitar. He has big gold rings and like a Flavor Flav clock.
That will go right next to the Bismarcky doll that you pull the string and the beatboxes. I love stuff like this.
Okay. So normally, we're coming at this conversation, normally a Call specific thing that made this for you a thing that influenced your work and your path?
I always say there was a comic back in the day called Brother Man, the Dictator of Discipline, and that is the one thing that totally solidified it. Also, the first Far Side album, Bizarre Ride, like that, just the image of them on the roller coaster, I think, kind of brought it all together for television.
Shout out to the brothers.
That's right.
I like to say, in doing it and trying to pioneer it and people not getting it, I had a call from Power Entertainment. Stanley contacted me and says, can you come in and talk to me about this hip hop thing? I said, okay, number one, I'm a Jack Kirby fan, so I'm sitting there with Stan.
Shots fired.
So he says, well, what's with the names? Why is there LL Cool J and 50 Cent? And he was trying to break it down. He's trying to figure out the formula. And I said, Stan, well, it's kind of like people wanting to associate with something hip and cool. You won't say your name is Bobby, you'd be like, I'm Bobby B. You flip it. You're kind of like, Stanley Leibowitz is Stan Lee. So when I went there, he didn't really get it still. But I realized that I had kind of made it, I guess, because they're trying to figure it out. Because
And that's something that you did years before.
Yeah, there you go. So it's like, just keep doing what you're doing. I'm saying that I'm sure there's some artists out here in the audience that have their own voices and have their own styles and their own entree into this comic world. And you just do you. And eventually the world will catch up to you.
Well, one thing I will say, like, if someone is trying to nail the formula of hip hop, that's how you ended up with all those horrible comics that I showed earlier. They try to narrow it down to like, oh, it's some guy with lots of rings and big sunglasses. And so we can make an Alf issue where he does
It's the
that.
same on the other side of the fence. They're bad superhero characters.
That's
Well, I'm
true.
gonna give them a cape.
And I mean, you can look at the history of Wu-Tang comics to look at how, again, someone from the other side of the fence tries to narrow something down to a simple formula, and it just doesn't always work.
But a lot of those rap cats, Pharrell, Chuck D, you going down the line, they're all in the comics culture because they grew up with it. And they're just on the music side. Thank God the music broke out to make
Chuck,
it easier for
Chuck
everybody
majored in
else.
graphic design. He designed the PE logo.
That's true.
Like, there's always been that visual aspect.
Yeah.
I feel like Fear of Black Planet has like a very comic book vibe too. It's like space, the two planets, and then like I remember on the insert it was like the whole team like in their name, their code name, what they did,
Well, Flav looks like a character anyway. It kind of makes sense.
Flav is a character, I can tell you. But PE is also, Mark Texera did the cover for Our Music and Our Message. Adam Valenta did.
It was like daily events happening on TV that I could grasp, and they would also happen in comics. Like when Superman and Muhammad Ali had a fight. That for me as a little kid, like I was already like, the greatest of all time, just fighting Superman. Are you
The
serious?
guy that drew that is here, Neil Adams. He's here.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, I would love to meet that
He's
guy.
in there.
I got the T-shirt for the cover of that comic book at home right now. But yeah, that changed the way I thought about it because I was just like, okay, well, man, like regular folks could be superheroes too, So what I'm saying, it helped me to grasp what hip hop was about. So to speak.
And we are just about out of time. I'm going to start down on that end with Supernatural. Just quickly, give a URL or a Twitter handle, say what you're working on right now, and promote your new and upcoming stuff.
MC Supernatural on Instagram, at The Real Superdad on Twitter. Currently, I'm getting ready to break my world record again. I used to hold the world record in Guinness Book for the longest freestyle in the world, which was 9 hours and 15 minutes off the top. A gentleman came and broke my record by 5 minutes, which I thought was cheesy. So now we've created a new concept, and it's called 24, and I'm going to try to rhyme for 24 hours with 24 of the greatest producers in hip-hop. From past, present, and future. I'm praying that it all comes together. That's what I'm working on right now. So check me out and see if my superpowers can last for 24 hours against so once again, the comic book theme is always going to be inserted in everything I do.
Excellent. Let's keep this rolling since we have
That's
2
my
minutes.
Black Valor
until we
right
have to be
there.
on stage, so.
Man, for me, CharlieTuna.com is all things Charlie Tuna. Jurassic5.com is all things Mark Cool. And I got this coffee table book that I've outsourced, and I was able to raise some money for and put together. It's put together like a black book because I am a graffiti artist who can actually rap and not the other way around. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean that's really what I'm plugging right now. But it's called Against the Current. There's a bunch of EPs that float around this particular project of mine. I'm just really proud because I never thought it was possible. I knew it was probable. I just didn't think it was possible, and I'm glad that I was able to do it. So thank you guys, and if you guys want to check it out, it's right up here. Thank you.
URL, Twitter, quick.
Kenny Kyle on Twitter. I was going to try and break Supernatural record, but I canceled that. I go there. Yes, working on stay-at-home Scarface. It's what happens when you grow up on gangster movies and rap music, and then you have to raise a small person.
Excellent, James.
Yeah, 1985, the word 1985.com, that's where you can buy my book. And we're also developing an app that turns your phone into a spray paint can, and you can spray paint around the world and battle each other on your phone. So more paint.
I'm AaronYoshi.com or at AaronYoshi pretty much on all social media. I'm working on a project on climate change, so I'm doing a lot kind of out of the country. I'll be in Ecuador and in the Amazon region, so check me out.
I'm working on a children's book called Soul of Harmony. I did the hip hop thing, now I'm doing jazz and blues, 1930s. So I'm trying to stay innovative, pitching this animated cartoon.
And what's the website?
RecStudios.net.
RecStudios.net.
Net like net 30.
Warp Zone #1 drops on Comixology on April 20th from Rosarium Comics. And you can find me, so yeah, it's 420, pick it up. And on Twitter, I'm at tlange4, Tumblr, hellotedward.tumblr.com.
Excellent. And I'm Patrick Reed from Depth of Field Magazine, Comics Alliance, and many other places. DJ Patrick A. Reed at Twitter. I need to thank all of the